Okay, York condos. Let's take a look here. And I think, a little bit more of the tail that we've seen across the board when talking about some of the stuff. We talked about the freeholds being up year over year 45%. And here we are, our jump up to 55% year over year when looking at our new listing volume coming out. Median price year over year down 1.5%. I mean, that holds true to me, especially when we're looking at that median price of 633. That range keeps coming up when I'm looking at condos. Month over month, slight decrease from where we were there in December. New listing volume month over month. Like we said, the seasonality of going from December to January, we're looking there up 182%. That is a big jump. There's no denying that. Even with the seasonality of it, that's a big jump in terms of new listing volume when we're talking about condos in York Region.
It's a huge jump, and we'll see what the jump is from January to February when this month's stats come out. But again, you're 55% above the new listings volume from last year, which was I don't know if I have a chart for it, but probably a lot higher than it was the year prior to that one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big number to see in the condo space that's already moved that much. You can also see the percentage above list price, so the amount of offers they received over, down 34%. And then termination volume, 68.7 terminations,
Yeah,
or sorry, 60, almost
up
69%
68%. Yeah.
of them terminated. So another, again, if you're dealing with clients in the condo market, you better be vetting them and finding out and asking the right questions, because I think it's going to be a really tough year for the condo market, and just based on the numbers we're seeing out of York Region so far, it's probably going to hold true in York Region. And just making sure that you're getting to the bottom of their motivation, and ensuring that they're going to be competitive when you put their property out there is I think critical.
Yeah, and shout out to Dina and Stacy who are watching this video live with us now and joining in. I remember having a great conversation with Dina about how much consultation time we were spending with our clients regarding the condo market, because we were just seeing these listings last year not moving at all, and the amount of effort and time that we put into servicing our clients is above and beyond. But the reason why we have to go above and beyond these days is because of the amount of inventory that we're seeing on these signs. Like, there's so much competition out there. So you want to make sure you're working with one of these fantastic agents that takes the time to evaluate and position you in a place. Like I said, when we talk about making sure you're working with the motivated, because the costs that you invest, the investment money that you put up front in regards to staging, sometimes, like I said, my last two condos alone were $4,000 just for the staging. And it's not like they're huge penthouse condos, right? That's just one of the things that we're doing. So, it's I would have loved to see the year over year go a little bit differently, but I think with all the sluggishness that we felt last year, I mean, to only be down 1.5%, you could almost look at that as a win, to be honest, especially when we're talking about York. And I don't think York suffers the same plague of investment built condos the way that Toronto does, especially when you're looking at the core. Did we build a little bit smaller here? Yeah, absolutely. I'm consulting with people that are ready to downsize in Richmond Hill, and they only want to look at the old buildings because the old buildings are the only ones with decent square footage, right? So it is a challenge of where we moved in terms of our building. We're not building family sized condos in that same way that we used to. But anyways, I don't know. That's just part of the conversation in terms of why I think York has held up perhaps a little bit better than what you're seeing in the core. Okay, Matt, talk to me here. You know how I love going to sales first, but I'm gonna throw it to you while I have a sip of this coffee.
Yeah. So as far as sales volume, you can see the bulk of the sales has happened between 500 and five to $600,000 with 65 sales. Now, if we go back to, and this, or just a reminder, this is the full year up until about February 11th. Now, if we go back to the active listings, we're at 239, and 600 to 700,000 is 229 with only 46 sales. So, like we
Oops.
mentioned earlier, when it comes to uh, you know a pricing cohort that needs to potentially shift to the downside, that 600 to $700,000 range might have to start moving its way down to where we're seeing the bulk of the buyers. I mean, there still is
Mhm.
some decent buying going on between 6 and 700,000,
Yeah.
but anything north of that's really sluggish as well when it comes to sales.
Yeah, I agree. Now here, Stacy had a question. Let me pull this up just for a second. Asking here, any idea how many of these actives would be new construction? So stuff. Obviously, what we're looking at here, Stacy, is everything that is on the Toronto Real Estate Board in the resale world. None of that pre-con stuff is typically allowed on there in terms of assignments. So it would all be now stuff that's closed on. I If you're asking if anything that's closed like within the year, um, don't have that data in terms of these charts in regards to how many of that stuff is like brand new that's just closed and being resold potentially with nobody ever actually moving in, right? Uh,
You know what? It's a great point by Stacy, because it is a stat that I think a lot of people want to know
mhm.
is how much of this is pretty new and getting moved onto the market. And
Yeah.
I'll definitely be looking to see if there's a way to access that kind of information, because I think a lot of people would want to know.
Yeah, because what that says to me as well when I'm looking at is how many of these condos in York regions were bought by pure investors, perhaps even speculators, in the sense of like, hey, they never really had intention to close on it. Because in Toronto, that's not an uncommon thing. And unfortunately, there was some stuff going around in the news and the real estate chats. The amount of mom and pop investors that just got over leveraged because in the good years they were able to buy a bunch of those pre-cons with minimal money down, and then they never closed on them. They would sell them on assignment, flip them beforehand, make their profit, and walk away. And now, as we're seeing that a lot of those aren't appraising, there's too many of them. Even the assignment market is getting flooded with options at this point. Those just aren't happening the same way. So I think more of them are closing these days. At the end of the day, they're either closing or, like we saw with Mark Morris there, a few people are being advised, hey, just don't close on these things because you're never going to get out from under them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I If you're going to close on something that's worth $200,000-300,000 less than
Yeah.
what you are paying for. Yeah, it's a bit of an issue there. There are a bunch of Facebook groups for assignment sales, actually, and you can follow along with them to just see the amount that are being piled on through those Facebook groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking a look at new listing volumes here for our condos in York Region. Again, big increase in terms of our year over year. Let me get my cursor back there. Yeah, up 40% in terms of January to January from where we were in terms of our active listings. Be interesting to see how this pans out. I'm assuming, like you, Matt, that specifically in the condo world, we're going to see this trend continue. It's interesting that when we look at 2024, it didn't surpass 2022 until after the rates started to happen. So I think what was happening here, when I look at new listings running up before March, this is still a very hot market where people are making those moves upwards. I think everybody's listing to take their next step into the townhome market. And then we see the rollover in 2022 as we start to see our rate cuts start to happen. As we talk active listings, look at 2024 for York Region. This was the stuff that was in the headlines the whole way through. All the data that you and I were looking at just consistently, the amount of active listings in the condo market is something like we'd never seen before. And York was not immune to it.
Well, what's really interesting here is, we're 2024 from 2023 was actually a big jump. Um, because what year is that? That's in the middle. 2019 is just below the
Mm.
green line there. But if we look where the green line was, so 2024 to 2023, look how much of a gap that is in the summer months for
Oh, yeah.
supply there. And now we're 44% higher than we were to start the year in from 2024. So how much of a stretch is that going to be from in the summertime from 2023 now to 2025 numbers if we follow a similar path?
You know what I will say about this, to talk about the bright side for a minute? Downsizing in these hot markets has been really hard for people. And we talked a lot about people getting trapped in equity in their home because there's nowhere to go. Because it used to be you could sell your trophy home, your detached 2-story big house, and then move to a nice little bungalow or move to a nice condo, and you were able to pocket a lot of your equity, to save for retirement. And what happened after, specifically after COVID, but even the run up to 2017, is a lot of those homes were appreciating in value so quickly too, because everybody was just trying to buy something. There was not enough out there for people to buy. We had a shortage. And so now, at least with this gap, like if you're and we've seen the turnover in terms of pricing for condos, I think there's at least more opportunity for our downsizers. And so that would be something that I think more people should be having a conversation with. If you have been thinking about downsizing, we're seeing the detached markets hold pretty steady, condo markets taking a hit. Maybe now is the time. If that's something that you're going to be doing anyway, get into it now before these things turn around. I mean, I don't mean you don't need to do it right now, because I think this is going to continue for a little bit. But I think that's the cool thing, is that there's more opportunity now for those people to have those kind of discussions.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dylan. I really think that's a great opportunity for individuals, like you said, to get some of
Yeah.
that equity out of their property and downsize. And you know what? You can never time the bottom of a market. It's next
No.
to impossible to do. And what we're seeing is, yeah, there's probably at some point this year, there's going to be a fantastic entry point for you, just based on the amount of active listings and the decreased sales. That there's going to be deals to be had for those who are out there looking and negotiating.
Yeah, absolutely.